Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Neil Ramdat. Good evening to my great family of United National Congress. Very pleasant good evening, and thank you for coming out this evening. Honorable political leader, Ms. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, who is locked on and viewing on our digital media platforms, my colleagues at the head table, my parliamentary colleagues who so graciously accepted my invitation to come and join me as we move our TNT Speaks live from the Mayaro constituency. Councillors, chairman of the regional corporation, aldermen, activists, supporters, and every well-wisher gathered here today, a very pleasant good evening, and thank you again for coming out this evening. It is an absolute honor for me as Member of Parliament of this constituency to host this important meeting at this crucial time. I thank you very much for being in attendance, for all of you who are here, those of you who are connected through our media platforms, and the thousands who I've seen logged on this evening on all of the YouTube channels and Facebook channels and so on. Again, thank you. Now, Candice and Ryan, who spoke first, would have placed Mayaro and Guayagüari squarely on the neglect profile of the PNM. These two communities of which I grew up in, which would have given Trinidad and Tobago so much, we should never have to be begging for basic services in 2022. Our councillors and aldermen, led by Chairman Raymond Cozier, would have highlighted the worsening state of local government by the poor allocation of funding to our region. Our region is bigger than Tobago, but we get less than 1% of the allocation. Councillor Charlene Moona and Renel Kisoon have described the hopelessness and helplessness as our young people in the Mayaro constituency. The lack of opportunities for jobs and their personal development is a dagger in the hearts of every young citizen in our community. Hazari, David, Shafik have described the state of neglect that this PNM government has left basic amenities and infrastructure such as water, roads, sporting facilities. They have all fallen victim to the PNM. They have fallen victim to their incompetence and the pure bad mind. That's how the young people will say. They just have bad mind. Alderman Maraj summed up the impact of the PNM's neglect on the business opportunities and development in other sectors, agriculture, tourism. When these things don't work, business do not flourish. That is the evidence, the fingerprint that the PNM has left on this constituency. This kills innovation, job opportunities, and the development of the communities, all 26 communities that make up the Mayaro constituency. Dr. Ragbir, MP Rambali, have placed this national catastrophe called the PNM on notice. Health, crime, justice, and education continues to spiral down and down, stifling and suffering the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The PNM have their knees on the neck of our citizens. And I'm glad David spoke about that, or silence. Sometimes the silence is deafening, that the job only belongs to your councillor, your MP, your chairman. This is a job that all of us have to be involved in, and you must raise your voices. I remember once telling some citizens on social media, listen, what if 10,000 of us were to write WASA, send a letter to the Regulated Services Commission, let's write about the quality of service we are getting. You know, one lady tells me on Facebook, I'm too lazy. That is my work. Like if it's only me alone not getting water in Mayaro. This is what we speak of. This is what David spoke about. If we do not mobilize as a people to get the message loud and clear to the government, the status quo will not change, ladies and gentlemen. Brothers and sisters, This is a time in Trinidad and Tobago where we're enduring the worst suffering and hardship in decades. And our beloved country is falling apart in all areas. There is no sector of this country that has been spared by the PNM and its inefficiency and its bad mind. We are attracting international attention for all the wrong reasons. Crime, cost of living, unemployment, public health conditions, declining educational standards. 60% of our children scored less than 50 at the SCA. Business closures right here in Rio Claro and Mayaro. To talk about the collapsing state of our public utilities, Hazari went to Tongan Wasa. All of this has taken place under a very incompetent and clueless administration. And that is what we have to deal with daily, ladies and gentlemen. Brothers and sisters, with the PNM in charge, Trinidad and Tobago, according to Neil, has really gone to the dogs. And what took place on the runway in Piaco is really a symbol of where our country has reached. The dogs shut down an international airport. Brothers and sisters, as we gathered in this hall today, the cost of putting food on the table is the highest that it has ever been, to a point where the working class, they are terrified to even go and turn up in the market on a Saturday morning because they are afraid of the prices that is going to be called for the food and vegetables they're in. Brothers and sisters, but as MP Rai said, the high cost of food is not the fault of our farmers. In fact, our farmers deserve our appreciation for toiling against the odds to put food and products in our market. The high cost of vegetables is a result of the government, the incompetency of the government to put priority on the agricultural sector. In spite of all the warnings that we have been made, we have stood in the parliament for the last year and we have warned the government about the impending storm, the superinflation that is coming down to us, and the government sat by and did nothing, and we are now at the start of it. Don't forget, we are now at the start, and it is going to go worse, and there is a deafening silence by the state. Ladies and gentlemen, wheat prices all over the world, that is going to continue to rise. There are going to be shortages of staple items, and yet neither the Minister of Trade, the Minister of Agriculture, the Prime Minister himself, who just come back from Guyana and hug up the President across there and talk about agriculture, not one incentive, not one, have been spoken about by the state to start to put relief programs in place. So by the time Christmas comes around, it can soften the blow to the citizens of this country. But you know what? We have a shameful, shameless government giving away fertile lands to ministers and the financiers, but they're refusing to give Shafik money to fix the agricultural access roads in the back of Ecclesville, Navet, to bring the produce for our farmers in bulk at a supply condition that we could keep the prices down. PNM government for you. The government is not meeting any of our stakeholders to talk. They are separated and disconnected from the people of this country. And as David warned, we don't want to go down the route of Sri Lanka. For those of you who are looking at what's happening, that is a place we do not ever want to be or should aspire to even look at or think about getting there. Something as simple as this, brothers and sisters, right in Navet, we are on the edge of the Nerva swamp. It's the largest producer of ground provisions. But yet no discussion on how increased production can assist with the pending wheat flour shortage. No conversation is happening. This country is on autopilot, ladies and gentlemen. It is leaderless, it is rudderless. And that is putting us in a very dangerous position. The PNM has what you call chronic bankruptcy. They are bankrupt of ideas. They lack the will to improve the lives of our citizens, ladies and gentlemen. While the cost of food going through the roof, there's 150,000 people out of jobs in this country. 150,000. The central bank last week, you know what's funny with the central bank? They say hundreds of thousands of people are living paycheck to paycheck. But what they didn't say is how much people they had no paycheck. They refuse to say that because the government hides the information. So they tell you everything looking good. They come and they gaslight you and tell you, don't worry, the country good. Stuart Young gone on CNN and said the people are doing well. And we know that is not the truth. But the PNM users, they sit back, they do nothing, and they are allowing businesses to close. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things you must always, and not to forget, that the people who occupy the Prime Minister's residence, they don't have to worry about grocery bills and so on. No. Not even the cost of buying a continental. They don't worry about that because they don't have to face the same conditions that many of you face on a daily basis. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not have to tell you that the economy is collapsing nationally. It is strangling our constituency. The country is earning less and less because of a very lazy government that has refused to diversify away from oil and gas. And after 7 years, they're still blaming Kamla for every single thing under the planet. And while they're blaming Kamla, watching so, everything collapsing to the left of them. And they say the opposition only making trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, if Trinidad and Tobago was a business, it would have been declared insolvent. If it was a household, it would have been declared bankrupt. But this government is like a drug addict. They keep going and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing just to fit their desire and their needs without thinking. Brothers and sisters, how many of you recall what existed under the administration led by Kamla Persad-Bissessar from 2010 to 2015? Trinidad and Tobago was a paradise. It was luring in investors by the busload. $1.5 billion investment. What investment means is jobs for you, and jobs for your children, and jobs for your grandchildren. And it gives you money to spend. It allows you to earn, to dress well, to live a decent standard of life. Since 2015 to now, more money has left this country because investors are afraid to leave their money in this country. And that is the reality of what the PNM has done in terms of our national economy, ladies and gentlemen. But when you can get a government with a leader like Kamla Persad-Bissessar, with ministers of government, with strategists, with ideas that could do those kind of things, that is what happens when you elect competent people in competent government, ladies and gentlemen. But this PNM is so weak and so poorly designed and ineffective that they cannot even deal with people thieving copper on telephone pole. Every Monday morning, line hanging left and right. They can't even deal with that. I think today, on today's newspaper, the PNM has created an environment where somebody break up my church and thief the church bell. That is where we are. They're thieving the church bell from in the church. Now, that is just a symptom of a larger problem which this government has created. Brothers and sisters, every PNM regime, they make promises and they fail to deliver. We have budget coming in September. Minister of Finance called Imbert is going to stand and he will make another 200 promises that they will not deliver on. And you know what? There are certain sectors of this country will clap and say, very good, every year after every budget, perfect, nice. But not one of them have the testicular fortitude to tell the Minister of Finance, you've done nonsense. And we're calling on these groups, these agencies to get real, because it's not only them, it's we and our children, our grandchildren that are going to be affected. Ladies and gentlemen, the PNM can't do anything right. I can tell you, Videsh raised the issue of development. Those of you who came down this Naparima Mayaro Road, I am telling you, within 2 months, it ain't gonna have no road. In George Village, half of the road collapsed. There's 3 or 4 more pieces on the verge of collapse. You know what's going to happen? When that roadway collapses, BPTT loses money. The country loses money. The port of Galeota will have to shut down. Light manufacturing, which is happening in Rio Claro, putting people to work, will have to shut down because the trucks can't come to Rio Claro. Retail, their wholesalers have said that they're not coming to Mayaro because the trucks can't come down the Naparima Mayaro Road. Who suffers at the end of the day? We, our people. And you know why? Because of the neglect that this government has made on that Naparima Mayaro Road. And that is something that will come to haunt us and bite us, ladies and gentlemen. The PNM has turned safe communities, safe neighborhoods into war zones. 13 murders on a weekend. Is that a benchmark we want to take? 13 murders, 15 murders. That is what you call PNM policy incompetency. And you have people who cannot realize that they are doing something wrong and take corrective actions. Ladies and gentlemen, there are hundreds of criminal gangs roving this country today. And it is only going to get worse. And you know what? Imagine everything my colleagues have said or councillors have said. But next month we're going to celebrate 60 years of independence. 60 years of independence to land us to this. I can't accept that. I don't know if anybody in this country should accept that. But they're going to wine and dine in August. And we will forget everything that has been said here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, people are lining up. I'm not sure if you have encountered this. They line up in front of supermarkets with children and they are begging for money to buy food. Every single person spoke here tonight. Talk about, yeah, we have pothole and drainage issues, but people have problems eating. And let me tell you this, if the Minister of Health doesn't look at the statistics to see the amount of people who are coming, children who will be coming into the hospital system with symptoms of malnutrition, that is a signal of poor eating, that we have a bigger problem coming. If our suicide hotlines don't watch the number of calls that are coming in, that is a signal that all is not well. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the things that are rotting in this country, and it is not taken, it's not getting into the media, it is not being exposed, and we have to start talking about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we must be strong and focused, knowing that the darkest hour is always just before dawn. We collectively, as members of parliament, as councillors, as aldermen, as leaders in our community, we must build ladders of hope and opportunity for our young people. And as Charlene and Renelle said, it must be painful to finish a 4-year degree, sit down home, and you can't find a job. But the neighbor's son across the road, he had one subject to his name, but 4 gold chain, and he rolling with a BMW. Because he does all the things that these hardworking young ladies would not do. That is the mental stress that our young people is having today. But we must keep the faith. We must spread the message of our great party. It is a great party indeed. We, meaning all of you, must speak to the media. We must challenge the PNM's propaganda, and we must not believe it. Sometimes our own supporters believe the propaganda. They do it. And the PNM don't believe our propaganda, but we believe it. We must stop believing the PNM's propaganda that everything in the UNC is wrong and it's bad. We must remember that tough times do not last, but tough people do. And I can tell you, I'm absolutely proud of the team that the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa has put in place here in Mayaro, from our chairman, our councillors, our aldermen. I don't have to justify that for you. You saw it this evening for yourself. It's a formidable team, and we will take all the necessary actions to move this PNM government out of office in due time. I would like to remind you, in closing, that the UNC, under the leadership of Kamla Prasad Bisesa, will work with all of us, with all of you, to modernize our nation and make it internationally successful once again. Now, I tell you this, the PNM knows exactly what is going on in this country. The problem is, they just don't know what to do about it. That is the problem. They do not know what to do about it, but I can tell you. You see this team sitting here? This team sitting in front here? We know what to do. And when we take government, could be next week, next month, or next year, we will reverse this calamity that has befallen our great country under the People's National Movement. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Long live the United National Congress. Long live our political leader, Ms. Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Long live Trinidad and Tobago. And God bless you and keep all of you safe. And we will continue this struggle to bring peace and prosperity back to Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
And that was indeed the Atlantic Powerhouse. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen, to MP Rushton Parray.